We're back for episode 7. We missed last week, but we're here now. Welcomed with Khaos and Skeeldon. They're both programmers for Hi-Rez now, but they used to play in SPL, and you played for 4 seasons, right, or 3?
I think 4. So I started in 3, because I started in season 2 and I left midway into season 4.
And then Skilly played for 3 seasons, I think, right? Season 2 to season 4?
5, I think.
5, yeah, nice.
That sounds right.
Cool, yeah. So they've been around the block. They've both played and worked on the game, which is really cool.
Yeah, this week it'll be a shorter episode this week because we're pulling them in the middle of their workday. Not everyone has a 3-hour scrim day like me and Aurora, so it'll be a shorter episode, but should still be fun. Talk a little bit about the old days, maybe touch on current design, or not design, programming life, and yeah.
So what got you guys into Smite? Like, when did you start playing, and like, why did you start playing?
Do you want to start, or?
You can.
Yeah, so I think my friend found like beta codes to the game or something. This was back when side jungles were a thing.
Yeah.
And neither of us had really gotten into MOBAs before. I think we might have heard of League of Legends at the time, but none of us were really playing it. So he had a bunch of the beta codes, and he shared it with all of us, and we started playing. And I felt like very quickly I started really enjoying like the pace of the game, the way that it played. Especially because back then we were more like console gamers. We had only recently kind of like started getting into PC stuff. So I was used to a lot of like WASD movement, things like that, not really point and click. So yeah, I guess the kind of play style for the game really stuck. And then it just felt like there was a really tall ceiling where you can just keep playing and keep improving and keep like, getting better at the game. That I wasn't, maybe back then it was mostly like Call of Duty and Halo, and you can kind of get like good at certain dimensions of like aiming, but this was like multiple different, like, okay, how do you play the map? How do you play your certain gods, certain matchups, things like that. And that really stuck, and I think I ended up playing it a lot longer than my friends, but they did stick with it for a good amount of time.
Yeah, and your group of friends is awesome. Like, they remind me of my group of friends. Like, I played with you back in, like, we played 2012, right? Like, the end of 2012. I was thinking about this earlier. Was it, you played with, like, Frosh and Mortar, all those guys, right?
So, Def the Peanuts.
Def the Peanuts, yeah. Failure by Design, yeah. Khaos and Scott, yeah. Yeah, so I played. It's crazy to think that we played with each other back, like, because you're like one of the first people that I played with that's like still somewhat around Smite, because everybody else, like, I didn't start talking to until later, even if they played at that time. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think back then we were both support players, right? Because it was 2-on-2
No, I was a
meta.
jungle.
You were jungle? Okay, yeah.
So in 2-on-2, I jungled all the time. I remember back on the side jungle map, and I played Kali. Old Kali is like one of my favorite gods. Right here. This is one of my other favorite gods right here, Odin. Old Odin. But yeah, I like both of those gods on that map. I would just run around, and Vamana as well. I'd run around the map and take all the buffs and just get like 1 million kills every game.
Are you telling me you like would actually try to jungle before they introduced like jungle items?
Yes.
You haven't changed.
It went well. I remember my build was like, it was I can't remember in season 0. I'm pretty sure they still had pen. It was pen boots, like the physical pen boots, and then I would go Soul Eater, Frostbound every single game. That was my jungle build.
I missed the 4% crit on pen boots.
And then what about you, Skilly?
There was crit on pen boots.
Yeah,
That's insane.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
So for me, it was pretty much I was playing another MOBA, and my friend got a beta code, and he's like, "You want to try this game?" So said yeah, and it turns out I just like it kind of clicked with me where I was doing really good at the game, and I didn't care too much about the depth at the time. It was more just like, oh, I could kill people and I didn't die. I like that.
You played WoW too, like you have a pretty big background in WoW,
yeah,
right? So I feel like it transitions pretty well, right?
It's to an extent. Like I would say a lot of the pathing in like line of sight stuff does, but the actual combat completely different, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like, you didn't play any WoW, right, ever?
No, I knew of people who did, but yeah, I never got into it.
Nice. And then, like, when did you guys start? Because we started playing in weekly tournaments. Was that, like, your first weekly tournament when I played with you, like, all the way back?
Well, I think, I would say, you're talking about 2-on-2 still?
Yeah, because we played, did you play with, because I remember, okay, so what happened is I was bouncing between WoW, League, and Smite at the time, and I would just play all 3, and I would like take like a couple weeks off of one game and bounce around. I remember I you guys entered, was it PAX? Because I think it was for like a PAX qualifier, I think. And this is when it was like Frosh and like Death to Peanuts and Scott, right?
Yeah, so I remember we played in some bracket, and that might have been it. I don't have a recollection of like attending PAX or so. So
No. Was it? Yeah, it was the qualifier. We lost in the semifinal. The Payne's team, I think.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I remember too. Even back then, I think there's a video on YouTube floating around of us playing against Root Gaming, like the old Root Gaming, who's still in that in that tournament as well.
Was that Matty Pock was on the team or something?
Yeah, I think it was
Something
Maddie
like
and
that.
Shing.
I
don't remember who else played. It might have been. Yeah, it might
I
have
think
been.
he was.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember too, because there were two iterations of that team. I know there was one where you weren't on it, but it was the same kind of like core group, and then there were times where you were, and that might have been during the tournament.
Yeah, because I was away from Smite, I remember a little bit. Like I hadn't played in a couple weeks, and then the tournament was happening, and someone couldn't play, so then Death to Peanuts messaged me. He's like, "Yo, you want to play in this tournament? We need somebody."
Yep.
And I'm like, "Sure, yeah." And then that's when I first met you, because that's when you started playing with them.
Yeah,
basically.
I think the reason I remember you being support, I feel like you were playing Guan a lot in that tournament. So
I did play support in that tournament. Yeah.
okay, that might have been it.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. And then I think we both played the side lanes. Yeah. And then Scott was like the middle laner, and I remember he played a bunch of Agni and.
It was either Scott or Frosh. I think Frosh was the middle.
Oh,
laner.
Frosh, yeah. Frosh was mid, yeah. Scott played Agni though in the side lane, I think. I don't know. I remember, but yeah.
Crazy meta back then.
Do you remember your first impression of meeting him?
Max.
Yeah.
You were super fun. Yeah, I know you. I mean, you were really
crazy back then. It's still crazy now.
No, I mean, you were really nice. You were friendly. I'm trying to think. There's other things that I have memory of. Do you remember Humblebees at all?
Yeah, that team was with Kabam and like that guy named Nero, right?
Yeah.
And then I don't remember who else was on the team. Oh, it was you, Kabam, Nero.
Cryptics? That's a name that rings a bell.
Oh yeah, that guy that's the guy who made me switch to support.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Because you thought he was awful.
Yeah. I didn't remember his name. Yeah, that guy. He never came to mid camps when I played jungle, and I was like, I cannot stand this. So I swapped to support, and I showed up to every single mid camp after that.
But I think one of my favorite memories never left me. I don't remember the full context, right? But I know we were doing some scrim on that team. It might have been against DJ Pernicus's team with Kiki.
Yeah.
And you were playing jungle, and we were definitely losing. And I think you were getting your buff stolen like over and over again. And at one point, you like walked into your speed, and you saw your speed was missing, and you were like, "Oh, DJ, you're so good. You want me to Walrus clap for you? I'll Walrus clap." And it's like I can't see you, right? Like I have a screen in front of me, my only connection to you is my headset and my microphone, but I can visualize so clearly you doing this.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
Nothing's changed.
Oh man. And then Skilly, when did I first see you? Like it was just in ranked, right? And then we played was the weekly tournament the first time I ever played like a weekly tournament with you, when we played with Gars? And it was
I feel like we might have met before through Kiki.
Yeah. Okay, so you knew Kiki for a while, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I think the first time we met was through that weekly tournament where someone just pitched the idea of like, hey, none of our teams are really playing. Do you guys just want to play? And it was me, you, Gars, Soulshiner.
That's a stacker.
Yeah, Cyclone. And dude,
Oh yeah, Cyclone was the last.
literally 3 junglers and then 2 side laners.
Okay, guys, where are we going?
That's awesome.
And Gars was like, I'll just play Merc every game. And then you're like, I'll just play mid. And then Soulshiner jungle is pretty fun. But yeah. That's crazy. Kiki was like, I guess Kiki got everybody like connected. I feel like early on. I feel like mainly because when did you meet Kiki? You didn't meet him until later on, right?
Well, I think at one point in Humblebees, I was playing solo, and Kiki was playing solo, and that's kind of when I started talking.
Talking to him, nice. Yeah, because I feel like the group that we had back then, like with all the players, like we all knew each other. It was like the first like big like ranked group of people that would always like Q snipe each other and like play ranked all the time. It was a ton of fun. It reminds me of like there's been like a couple of those groups I feel like every couple of years that come around. I feel like we were like the first group that did that, and it was a ton of fun. And then you played with Clumsy on Resist, right? Like after like how was that? Because I know you and Clumsy, I love Clumsy so much, and Clumsy, spoiler, is gonna be on next week, but yeah.
So Clumsy, okay, that team was a mess, to put bluntly. It was pretty much me, Clumsy. Then I'm trying to think. The other two was Rafiki and someone else, Unseen Death.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And then there was a third person who we were kind of cool with, named Gizmo Luke. Giz was kind of just like, didn't care, was just chilling. Great. Perfect teammate. Then me and Clumsy would always fight the other two pretty much on like arguments. And it just got to a point where like we literally could not talk in game.
That's really good. Love
Yeah,
that.
it was, the dream team, classic amateur team. And it just kind of like, I remember after that, we kind of disbanded because I think Clumsy was like going to join you guys at one point.
Yeah, then he said no.
And then, yeah, you got hired by Hi-Rez. So I ended up just kind of just mindlessly grinding rank and, yeah, went from there. I think I remember what happened next was I was streaming a lot, and Oceans, who was good friends with Kiki at the time, they were reforming Envy after the whole, like, that bad split. And he just, like, kept watching me streams like, yeah, I just like the way you're playing and the way you're talking, communicating, how you view the game. So we're going to try you out more or less as a jungle.
Because you played like Challenger Cup a little bit, like in season, was it season
so
beginning, or?
The earliest I ever played was actually like season 0 in terms of that, when it was like my revenge tournaments.
Because you traveled with Clumsy. I remember didn't you guys drive?
Yes,
to Atlanta?
RTX. No, it wasn't Atlanta, it was Texas.
It was Texas.
So this was for me, it was a 24-hour drive. For Clumsy, it was like a 28-hour drive.
Oh my God.
We did this in like 1 day, 2-day planned trip before, where it's like, hey guys, this tournament's happening in 2 days. You want to go? Yeah, why not? We drove down there. I think it was like an expedition match where winner got to play.
Cursed, right?
It wasn't Cursed because it was Lassus, Maddie, Zap,
okay,
and like 2 other people I can't remember right now. And what ended up happening is we pretty much drove down there. It was like, yeah, so the only good team is going to be like Nanton, and I can't remember who else was on that.
Nanton.
And they ended up not getting enough people for the tournament. So there's like, yeah, and instead of this being an expedition match, they're just joining it. We're like, oh, we aren't guaranteed to make our money back anymore.
That's crazy.
So how many teams were in it? Like 4 then, or something?
Yeah, there was 4. It was not a.
That's like the original like esports grind, where like it wasn't a big thing back then, and you like actually just drove to like small random venues just to like just play tournaments that I don't know.
The one thing I'll never forget in that trip, I think we were like 14 hours into the drive. People just like had a mental breakdown and started everyone singing Disney songs.
Nice.
For like 4 hours. It like wouldn't have been bad if it was like a single 1 or 2 songs, but I think we went through like every movie soundtrack.
Yeah.
So funny.
At least it gave you some. I can
Something to
imagine
do,
Clumsy
yeah.
doing that. Oh my God, that's so funny.
Which one looped the most? Which one did you guys play the most?
I don't know. I've kind of buried that so deep in my mind. I can only recall like it happening, but the actual experience is just a blank.
Oh my God. And then, so your guys' first, like, I guess foray in the SPL was it season 2, or did you play season 1? I can't remember.
No, so yeah, it was season 2. I had played amateur on Resist for a big part. In fact, I feel like I remember scrimming your team a lot, or a couple of your teams.
Yeah, I think the first time I met, well, I think I like knew of both of you, but I think the first time I really like talked a good bit to both of you was when I had ended up being on a team with both of you. And I think for you, so my start was, it was like a 4 a.m. rank game. I was like 4v5ing, and I was playing support, and I had Brochacho and Chapo on my team.
Yep.
Yeah, and I was playing like Ymir or something. And then he's like, it was a Chronos solo main who was on their team. And they were like, yeah, he's not, do you know who I'm talking about?
Yeah, I think I know who you're talking about. I don't know his name, though.
It'll come to me like in 20 minutes or something.
But, dude, I know who you're talking about exactly.
Yeah, but they were like, yeah, he's not going to show up tomorrow. Do you want to play Challenger Cup? So I subbed in. I'd lost to you guys. We placed like 3rd or something. I think you guys beat.
Wait, you were on that Resist team?
Different one.
Well, different one.
I was the team before him.
No, but you were on the team that played. You played with Mike when you played Eager.
No. I wasn't on Resistance. I was on High Five. So that was with Chop.
High Five.
Yeah, I was. So
okay.
I subbed in like 2 separate weeks on that team. I wasn't even like on that team, and both time we lost to you guys, and we placed 3rd in the tournament. And you guys and I think the team you guys always were beating was like Legion of Carrots or something. It was like Pern and Pain and stuff. Yeah. So both of your teams ended up making the SPL. You relegated out the 2 SPL teams. So we were only losing to SPL teams. And I remember they still wouldn't put me like on the actual like team as support because Brochacho would role swap to solo whenever we did that. And then I forget who on Resist, but it was like I played with you, Fearno, Ballantyne, and was it Huda maybe?
It was Huda. There was also Nintendude at one point.
I think.
Oh my god, Nintendude.
Yeah.
I think maybe I ended up replacing Nintendude because I think
Was he a soul laner?
He was jungle.
He was jungle.
There was, Mast was also on one of the teams. He might have been on Bloodbath and Beyond, which had Chapo on it. So
yeah, because
there's been a lot of teams.
I remember I don't even I think I was playing like maybe I was streaming or something. No, I wouldn't have been streaming before Eager. I think I was just playing like Siege or something. I literally remember playing Siege with just with my like random friend group, or maybe it was a couple of like the high five guys, and someone messaged me that I didn't even recognize. I want to say it was Ballantyne. I didn't know like who he was, and he had like asked me if I wanted to play support for you guys, and I think I only played like 2 or 3 weeks with you, but we won every single like tournament in that span in Challenger Cup.
Nice.
But
So
yeah.
that's like the first time you guys talked to each other then? Like you
I think
two?
so.
Yeah.
I feel like we got along pretty well like
Yeah.
off the bat.
I feel like we did scrim because I feel like I remember scrimming high five a lot. And
Yeah.
would,
I
like,
did
chat
scrim a
after
good bit.
games.
Yeah, because I remember when I had played with them, it made me feel... So at first when I was playing, it was just like for fun, like weekly tournaments. I was just like, yeah, why not? Like I'm just in college. Like why not do something just on the weekend? I don't have anything else to do. But then when I was scrimming and playing with you, I feel like you were so tryhard. Like, I remember we would literally like at the time I think C9 was one of the best teams. It was like Stealth and Barra and all them. And I remember like we would literally watch VODs of how they would play and like how Jeff and Stealth would like play mid Harpy fights and all that type of stuff. And I remember we were going through like all these VODs. We were like trying to do stuff in scrims, and we would just blow out every team in Challenger Cup because we were actually like tryharding the map and the meta and stuff. It was so fun. And then yeah, you ended up quitting, and then that's the whole I got into the SPL story. But yeah, you were like my first I want to call it like professional teammate. Like we weren't professionals at the time obviously, but like we really like took it seriously type of thing.
Nice. And then when did you meet like Mike and Smite, or like when did you start
So I
talking
think
to
I
him?
meant it's when we really teamed together on Envy, right?
Well, were we okay? So do you remember the group? It was like I don't remember how much we were in the like team speak together, but like the group with like Walrus and Wubbin
Yeah,
and them.
Salt.
Like, yeah. So that would have been like end of season 2, end of season 3. Maybe we had like hung out and like either like played ranked, or we all used to play like arenas and stuff. So we probably interacted a little bit.
A 4 a.m. arena queue.
Yeah, yeah,
One of
yeah.
my favorite things I remember doing in that group was the it was a 5-person fight night like in house, and it was just only pros. I'm like, this is the fucking sickest thing.
Yeah, it was so
ever.
fun. I think it was like Wooney was in there too.
Yep.
Like there was just a bunch of ranked players. We would just all play at like 4 a.m. in the depths of the queues in the summer.
That's awesome.
It was awesome, yeah.
Those were the best queues, I feel like. The super late night ranked, it was
Yeah.
the best back then, I feel like.
The Wolfie graveyard shift.
Oh my gosh, the Wolfie Shing queues are just
Everyone just starts sniping.
It was
and
so
the game
good.
just would end up becoming like, okay, there's like 8 really good players on each.
my favorite thing about those queues were that Wolfie and Shing would usually be in comms with each other, but Shing refused to do a queue with Wolfie because he just wanted to tilt him. Like he just wanted to snipe him and be against him and tilt him. That's all I remember. It was so good.
And then, I wanted to ask you, I couldn't remember. I had like season 2 for super regionals, because you know everything that happened. That's like a whole nother episode we could do on that whole season with all the DDoSing and stuff. But
Oh my god.
but it turned into super regionals, so my team qualified, and I think you came as the coach, right, for Khaos?
Oh yeah, I remember
Yeah.
about that.
Were you on the team with what was your team in season 2? Were you on the team with like it was like Met and was Mifflin on that team? I don't remember. Do you know what I'm talking about? Was it Elevate or something? Were you
No,
in
I
the
was
Pro
not.
League in
I was not
season
on
2?
Elevate. Oh, okay. What happened was I joined. I think it was Jerby had to put a team together to defend his SPL spots,
Oh, okay.
and Elevate knocked them out.
Gotcha. Okay, but were you on the team with Jerby then?
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay.
GG.
Unlucky. Okay, I will say one thing about that man. I remember he used to be like a ranked menace when you could buy Hog as an active and you would auto you once, hog the entire wave one shot, it hit 2 and then kill you.
Dude, that
It
was so
happened
broken.
every
That's
single
so
game, and it was the
OP.
most infuriating thing seeing it.
I remember Geb was like actually OP in dueling. Well, when I had first started playing, I was like a plat rank player. But yeah, like my plat rank games, you would just come to wave and you would just hit him, hog the wave, and then I would 2-1 like some stupid support who didn't know how to do it, and he would just insta die. It was so
Oh
funny.
man, the wave is so broken in Smite. It's
Yeah.
never, that's one thing that's never changed.
Yeah, I feel like back then it was even more broken.
Oh, yeah, no,
Yes.
it was
Yes.
so OP. Yeah, you were tanking the wave, you were insta dead.
Yeah, so you came as our coach, I think,
Yeah.
right? So
was it you that reached out? No, it was Kabam. Yeah, it was Kabam. I remember that message.
Yeah.
Kabam reached out to me. It was after I think I left a team. It was like me, Xenotronics. I think actually Scream replaced me on that team. And you guys reached out, invited me, and just to chill. That was the land. I think Kepri was the newest god.
yeah,
He was pretty recent, yeah.
because I remember having a lot of fun with you that like at that event. Because I remember you just hung out and you helped us like do whatever that we needed there. And like remember when we went to that one like PC cafe and scrimmed?
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah.
yeah.
What was it? I do remember that.
Oh man, I
Also remember Pern going through a Taco Bell drive-through and they wouldn't give him food because he didn't have a car.
He just walked up to it. He's like,
Sir, we can't serve you. You're not in a car. So
awesome.
F-Dot drove up by chance and he just hopped in the car with him.
that's so good.
yeah. I remember that he was getting so mad too, like the classic Pern rage. I would love to have Pern on. He would be so funny as a guest. Did you ever get to play with? You weren't on that Legion of Carrots team in season 2. It was just Pain and Panda, right? And then you joined Pain.
So it wasn't Panda.
Who was their hunter then? If it wasn't Panda?
No, I'm trying to Vishium.
Oh, was
Oh
It
yeah.
was, yeah.
Oh yeah. Wasn't it Panda at like the very beginning? Because I remember Zap would always tweet or like because
Yeah, that was season 3.
was it season 3?
Yeah.
Yeah, season 3.
No,
It was.
season 2 because it was when I was in Challenger Cup.
Oh wait, no, season.
No,
okay,
the first split of season 2.
Yeah, season
Panda
2.
ca-
Panda was on it, and then every
He went
year.
on vacation, right?
Yeah, every year he has like a trip. He goes like upstate New York with his friends, and he just like falls off the face of the earth, and like you can't contact him.
I don't think I was on the
remember-
team back then. That might have been it.
Yeah, because
Because it was the best, maybe.
Yeah, 'cause you were still in Resist at the time,
Yeah.
and then I think they made SPL, and then I think you had replaced. I don't know who their mid was, but you had replaced him.
all I know is that Zap would always tweet that he would put Panic Head in a cage when I played in Challenger Cup against them because we'd always play them in the finals. So you go ahead.
Okay, no, that's what it was. That team. You're right about the Challenger Cup team. I'm pretty sure that Challenger Cup team relegated an SPL team, and that was the original like General Payne kicking his whole team because back then the captain had control of the SPL spot, so he made it in through relegations with that team, and then like everybody was gone, and that was like
And then
his
that's
team
when
with
you
Vedion.
joined?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it was a Duro and DJ actually, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
That
it's
was
a
the
Duro and
original,
DJ.
Is that the team that turned into Randozos?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. Yes, because then they became enemy. And you guys, were you like 5th, 6th going into
We were
regionals or
I
whatever?
think 6th.
it was one of those two.
It's funny. The DDoSes in theory helped us get into super regionals because otherwise we wouldn't have gotten in.
Salt was on your team or Benji. I remember we
Yeah.
played you guys the last week, and I remember I had like a crazy Aries record. I remember I won. I think like I was like 10 and I was
I feel like
11 and
everybody
0.
banned that versus.
It was
you back
11 and
then.
0, and it would get banned every game. And the only time I lost on it that entire year, I think the entire season 2 was against you guys. In the very last SPL set, you guys beat us, I think. And then you guys ended up playing against the role swapping
Oh my
Incon
god.
Kiki team.
Yeah. I'm trying to. So I think to kind of fill in the gap of I guess how we got from Legion to Carrot to enemy. Back when I was on Resist, I remember like I really wanted to get into pro, but I didn't kind of know how to do it. Because we kept trying to do it kind of the amateur scene, right? Like just winning through, and we always like come up short like right at the end.
Yeah.
And I remember at some point I reached out to Payne because I think I saw him on like Reddit. I was like, oh, okay, he's kind of vocal. Like, let me see if I can reach out to him. And I said, hey, I'm interested in all these things. Do you mind maybe like coaching or giving me some advice? And so I think he would start sitting on some scrims or watch the amateur scene. And at some point, I think this was after Legion of Carrots was already in SPL, he was thinking of kind of forming a different team there or something like that. I don't remember the full context, but I think he was comparing, it was either me or the best at some point. Because he had mentioned, he was like, oh yeah, I enjoy the way, I see you in the scrims and stuff, and I'm considering you, but I think they were, since the best had already been playing pro and stuff, he was trying to get him first. But at a certain point, I think he decided to go with, I think it was me, Vishium, Salt Machine, or Benji now, and Wiggles the Bay.
Oh my god! I
God,
forgot
yeah,
it was Wiggles
Wiggles.
before Adjust.
Yeah.
Wow.
I forgot about that.
So how long did you play with Wiggles then? Because I remember Wiggles. So he was just a ranked jungler, right?
Yeah.
And then
So we played with him for a while. I remember, or a little bit of like the first couple, what was it, matches of the split. I don't remember like how far into the split we traded him out. But yeah, eventually, I think after just some scrims of like going over reviews and stuff, I think we were thinking like maybe we needed a different jungle at the time. And don't get me wrong, there were like other problems with the team there too. I think it could have even been like a scapegoat at that point. But we ended up picking up a Just instead. And then, yeah, I think we finished that split at 6 seed, and that's where it led into super regionals.
And then I remember the classic Benji playing both sides of the Guan Yu Hades matchup against, was it TSM?
It was against Bickham on TSM.
That's like one of the most like famous like Smite like set matchup things. He literally played both sides of the matchup and completely destroyed him.
That was actually like a Benji like 1v5 set. Like he just owned so hard.
Yeah, it's funny too because he was always like pretty quiet, but he has a super deep voice. So anytime he talked, I'd be like, "All right, I'm coming to mid," or like something like that. Like
he was so funny too back then because I feel like, do you guys remember? It was like a random regular season game, and I want to say it was against TSM, and Benji, like I think maybe it was before you. I don't know, but like. They were getting stomped, and Benji just literally like disconnected. He just like left the game. It was an SPL game. He just pieced out. So people used to meme him and stuff, or just like think he was like a troll or whatever. But he used to own so hard back then. I feel like he was always such a good laner.
He just did not care. It felt like,
Yeah, no,
like when you would talk to him, he was like, "Oh, you're just doing this because it's fun."
Yep.
Yeah.
That's exactly what he would say. And then season 3, like the MV team, that was like your first. No, you played on Noble, didn't you first, or was that after MV?
Noble was after.
So
right?
I think my first team was technically it was
over in Dosas, no?
No, it was before that. I was on a team with it was me, Shadowq, Vicium, Salt,
Oh yeah.
and someone else. I can't remember.
And that was an SPL?
Yes.
Yes.
That lasted for like 5 weeks or so.
Dude, this is what I was talking to you and Cyclone about.
Yeah.
Because I remember it was him and Mask. You guys swapped around like 3 times because back then roster locks weren't really a thing.
Yep.
So he started on Denial and I was on Randozos and we had Gars as our jungler. And our first match, we were supposed to play against them. And we played against him and we lost to them. And then they kicked him for Mask because Mask had left Envy.
Yep.
And then we ended up kicking Gars, and then we picked up Skeele on Randozos. And it just went back and forth.
My favorite thing of all time about that team, by the way, was I think it was when you were like you wanted to take a break.
Yeah.
Scary slipped through an SPL game, and then you're like, "Hey, Mike, can you come so we can like play a game? Like, we need a 5th player." You come back. Our logic is, okay, we have no practice as a team. Let's just play the earliest game comp we can. So I'm picking like Fenrir and stuff. And this is against, I think, like the number 2 seed.
We were against
team.
LG.
Yeah.
We played Fenrir Ares versus Jeff because we were like, yeah, Jeff always dies to Fenrir Ares. And we just ulted him off cooldown.
I can't believe I know we won at least one game. I don't remember if we won the set.
We 2-0'd him,
But it was,
yeah.
I just remember seeing that. I'm like, what the hell happened?
Yeah. Dude, do you remember me raging in that? Because I remember when I had left the team, I wanted them to pick up a support because I don't know if you remember, but Meerkat was like done because Meerkat was on Soar and then he ended up getting kicked for Baskin. And in his mind, he was just like, he just felt like that was one of the best like team opportunities he was going to get. And he was like going through school. So he was pretty deflated.
Was this season 3, right?
Yeah, started season 3. Yeah. So he ended up getting kicked for Baskin. And then Meerkat was just playing ADC just to play with me for fun because Aduro needed players. So it just ended up being like me, Meerkat, Aduro, Gars, and Scary. And Scary would own on that team. He was so good on Randozos. And I remember when I left, he's like, yeah, why don't we just get Walrus? Like, he's pretty good. He's available in the SPL. I'll just play support. And I remember raging at Scary. I was like, dude, you actually have potential. You could actually like be a good player in the league. Please do not roll swap. And then the first week he roll swaps, he sleeps through the match. And I have to come back and play. It was so funny.
The Scary D incident possible.
Yeah, it really is when we
That
think
is
about
a
this old
classic.
stuff. It's actually like people just never change. Like to this day, nothing's different.
That's what's awesome about it. It's crazy, like, to think that was 7 years ago now.
Yeah, that's insane.
That's insane.
Yeah.
It just feels like it doesn't feel like it was that long ago. It just feels like it was a couple years ago.
Yeah.
But as the years go by, it's just, I don't know, it's crazy. And then, so when you started playing, like, for you, like, your friends, what did they all say? Because I know you're really close with your, like, group of friends. Were they like, oh my God, that's so sick? Or were they like, what the heck is going on?
I mean, I think it's funny. I think in their own way. They some of them were also trying to go pro at the time too. I remember one of my close friends, Andrew. He actually played on a couple amateur teams. Yeah. He played on a couple teams with me until I think he realized like it wasn't like fully for him. And Josh, I think he tried doing some like pro stuff in Overwatch at a time. Like he was grinding that out, and he also did it a little bit with Dota. So yeah, no, I mean, I think I thought it was cool. There was a aspect where I think it took a lot of my time. And there were definitely moments where I think like scrims could affect my mood. So that was also like a frustrating thing to deal with at the time. So it was up and down. I mean, I'm sure it was interesting, but we had known each other we knew each other since elementary school. I think it was kind of like more calm or chill than like excited. But they did fly out to Season 2 Worlds to see.
Yeah, I remember
actually they
there.
drove up. Yeah.
One of the most iconic plays ever happened at that Worlds.
Oh yeah, I wanted to bring it up. The Zhong Kui TP.
Teleport. Yeah,
it's like one of my favorite. It has to be like my favorite Worlds play, like out of like all the plays I've seen, because I can't remember if it was actually. I was casting the game, I think.
Was that against Paradigm? Was that what they were called back then? It was like the Trixtang Cuvo team, right?
I don't think it was earlier in the tournament, right?
It was Reels. Was it Reels?
Oh, it was Fnatic. That's right.
Fnatic.
Was it Fnatic?
Yeah, they were a favorite. I remember that.
I knew it was a EU team, yeah.
You literally, TP'd, and then you got, it was just
a double
or triple? Yeah, it was a double, yeah.
It's so funny because there's so many things that had to happen in that game for that moment to happen. So it was, I had forgotten to buy a second relic. Like back then, you actually had to buy the relics, right? So I completely forgot to buy the second one for like, again, we might have been 30 minutes in that match. I forget how long it was, right?
Yeah, it was like 20 something. It was around, you TP'd, it was like, the ward was behind fire, like in between, like when you enter the jungle through solo lane, right? Yeah.
And I think what it was is, imagine, right, 26 minutes in, the only thing I had was beat. Normally back then you would buy beads and Aegis or something like that. So I still had not had my second relic. And that was just like, I'd keep backing and rush out before I'd remember to like buy it. And I remember in that situation, that team fight was actually looking really bad because I think I just got caught and I was like, oh no, like the momentum's swinging, right? Like, and I'd wasted my ult. Like I think Payne had ulted me. He was Khepri. I was Zhong. So I ulted a bunch of them. Payne like wasted his ult on me. We got like nothing out of it, and then we were retreating. I'm like, okay, that's it. Like they're gonna get fire, and it's gonna be bad. So at some point they were like aggressing on us, and we were like lasting in that team fight. I think it's also because tanks were really tanky back then, so people could like survive for a while. And I remember I got forced out, and I backed, and I immediately said to myself, I'm like, what would a solo laner do right now? Oh my god, they would teleport back in. Okay, buy teleport, rush in. Like don't even think, just do it. So I like backed, immediately bought teleport, teleported to a D ward, and then walked around the corner, and then it just lined up where I saw it. I'm like, this is it. Like they have no idea I'm here. I'm gonna do this. And I remember if you watch back at the clip, you can actually see me like screaming the moment it happened. I was like,
dude, yeah, that has to be like up there. It's like one of the best like Worlds plays. Like I love that play so much because every year during Worlds I always think of that for whatever reason. I don't know why.
Yeah, that was probably one of the most instinctual like moments in that game where again, no thought. It was just like, okay, what is the best way to do this situation? I can do this. Let me just try it, right? Like
that's probably the best way to play. Just no burn.
Yeah.
Burn off, go.
It's because you played as a solo laner before. Your solo lane is instinctive.
Is that what ran through your mind? You're just like, what would Benji do?
Okay, literally, yes. Because I used to. I mean, Benji was really good, right? So there's a lot of times where I'd like admire the way he would play, and I'd be like, okay, what is he doing here that a lot of other players like aren't abusing as much? And there's something also Kiki used to do, I think, too, is like abusing a second life. So it's like you go in, you team fight, get low, back, buy teleport, or just have teleport, TP back in. And that was kind of like where people were really experimenting with that second life mechanic.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of like just watching him play and seeing that was something he would do. When I backed, that was like that moment of like, okay, what options do I have? This seems like a good option. It works in these situations. Let me try this. And it just worked out. I mean, other things could have happened, right? I could have TP'd in. They could have saw me. I think I like specifically picked a D ward because I'm like, this is going to give me the best chance that I can sneak around them. They didn't have any wards on the way to them. They didn't have to line up the way they did, right? Like it was just all these pieces fell into place.
Was that your like first time actually trying out TP on mid there, or was that like just more like instinctual? Like I just feel this.
I'm sure I tried it, but that was like the first time I had like a moment where it really was impactful. And again, it wasn't planned.
Okay.
Right? Like I could have had Aegis early that game, and that never would have happened, right?
That's why that play is so sick because like there's like you said, there's so many things that needed to happen, and like that's like another thing too is like getting like a huge TP flank, like it happens a lot like nowadays, but like back then, like you wouldn't see crazy TP flanks like that like ever. Like it was like whenever someone got something off like that, and especially if it won a game like, at Worlds, it was like, insane like for the time.
I think
especially
what was lucky too is the camera wasn't focused on it, so it's like I think the cast is everybody, like nobody was paying attention to it, so when it just like when I popped up at the end, it was like this huge exciting moment. Whereas to my team, I was like, yo, I'm teleporting in, I'm going.
It was so cool too because it's like their first Worlds they've played in like huge underdogs because no one even expected you guys to make Worlds. That was like the loudest, like some of the loudest I've ever heard the crowd like that. And us losing to the LATAM team. Those are the two loudest Worlds moments I ever remember. Yeah.
Do you guys still experience the delay at the crowd? Because like that was one thing I remember. Yeah,
like a second or two, right?
Dude,
not too bad, but
we talked about it like a couple weeks ago. The biggest thing was at this. You guys were in the crowd the past Worlds or no?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So during our set, we played each other in the semifinals, and everybody cheered for all the buff camp kills.
Yeah. That was so good.
We didn't know what was going on.
We just thought each other like we thought the other team was just pulling Gold Fury.
Yeah, everybody's like, are they on gold? That's what I think that was said like 5 or 6 times. And I remember after the game, Slaney's like, they're just cheering for buff cams. Don't worry. I remember it was like so crazy.
Funny. Do you know why it happened? Like why everybody started cheering?
No, I don't remember why it happened.
I forget who. It was following somebody in solo lane. It might have been SOT, but it was.
It was like stuck on him, right?
Yeah, it was stuck on him.
Yeah.
And at some point, it wasn't turning back, and the rest of us like, oh no, like the camera's not going like back to the game, and it's just showing him like killing Totem. And then killing blue camp, and so the crowd's just like, all right, let's get into this. Like, yeah.
Oh my god.
But no, I remember at Cobb Center, I remember counting. It's like an 8-second delay. Like anytime, like if we would get like Gold Fury and then like walk away, I'd count like 8 seconds, and then all of a sudden you'd see the lights go down and the crowd would like start cheering. And it was interesting too because it was like if you get a kill, it was like really hype because then 8 seconds later you hear the crowd roar. But then obviously if you died or you like screwed up, 8 seconds later they're gonna see it and you're like, just don't think about it.
Yeah, that's actually that's a good thing to think about. Because during
Did you notice that season 3?
Yeah, for Worlds, yeah, for sure.
I don't feel like I noticed it. Maybe season 3, I don't remember, but season 4, I feel like it wasn't that bad.
I feel like it was delayed. It's been. I think it's been like that every single year I've played.
You thought this past year too?
Yeah, I think that last year as well. Like something happens in the game, and then like you said, like 8 seconds after,
maybe I'm just
start going.
Maybe you're just like too focused on the moment. I'm just not thinking about it. But yeah.
Yeah, because it happens like way after. It's always like you get a kill. And then it's like super delayed or whatever. So
I do agree that you do like pick up that something must have happened, right? Like as in there were definitely games during Worlds I remember where we didn't see any information. All of a sudden we heard the crowd like cheering, and we're like, yeah, they must have got gold or they must have got this, right?
Well, yeah, because back then there weren't the sound effects, right?
Yeah.
There was no sound effect, no indicator, so you could just have Fire Giant like legitimately you could sneak it.
Yeah, that's so different now. Now with everything, if you hear it, it's just global like volume to everybody when you secure that objective. So
what was also fun too, I remember at Cobb there was like the lights would actually change. So if Gold Fury was gotten, it would turn yellow and like flash everybody as yellow or like red for fire. So that was also like another signal. Like I think we were too focused to like actually pay attention. But I'm sure if we looked into the crowd, we probably could have seen like the yellow hue, right? Like hitting people like that's gold.
Nice.
I wanted to ask both of you about, because when you both were playing in the Pro League, you were also simultaneously in college, right?
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask both of you kind of the, like, I guess in some extent, like the work-life balance, but really it's like work balance between school and like the SPL, and also just like how that kind of transition worked. Like, did you guys ever imagine that you would end up, being programmers on the game that you were playing professionally? Like, was that a goal or it just kind of happened?
I can start us.
Yeah.
So it really, I can't really say it was a balance ever. It was more or less just sleep, work, or games. It's like, which one am I giving up? I chose sleep most of the time, because it turns out with enough caffeine, you can really solve most problems. So yeah, it was mostly just, as I said, studying anytime I wasn't scrimming, whether it was Smite or actually just programming subjects. For working here, I knew it was a possibility. It never was something I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go graduate. I'm going to apply to higher res. I'm going to get a job there. It was more like, I mean, like, I have a possibility if like,
people,
really,
all that,
It's like, I know the people there, I'm good friends with them. I know the game works on another level relative to other programmers that would have it. So it's like, it was a nice setup in the sense like it was also I felt safe being able to get that because I was confident as a programmer as well. So I'm just like, I have a lot of things going for me there.
Yeah.
When did you come to high res? Because you came after season 4.
Yeah,
Summer of
2017.
season 4,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, and then when did you start working here? And like when did you
When
move down?
was Cthulhu released? Because it was around
Season 6?
Maybe.
No, wait,
No.
season 7. He was
Season
released in
7.
7, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was around that time because I remember he was actually talking to me where I'm like, oh yeah, I'm graduating, blah, blah, blah. I'm applying for jobs right now, but I'm looking for like an engine position. And he's like, we kind of like have a spot open for something like that. Why don't you give it a shot, apply here? So I did, and that's kind of how I ended up here.
Did you do an extra semester or two? I'm trying to remember.
So what ended up happening is I went to school for 1 year, and then I was getting pretty close to being like an actual pro, and I'm like, I just want to take a year off and try this.
Oh,
And
okay, that
luckily
was
my
it.
parents
That
were
makes
like amazing, and there was like, yeah, no, as long as you're like willing to actually go back and complete it after, like we'll support that. So I took a year off, played, and then went back to school and then continued playing because once you break in, it's kind of a lot easier to stay in the scene, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just kind of kept going until my classes got to a point where I'm like, okay, I can't actually give up any more sleep because I will not be functional. So I guess Smite's gonna have to give.
Yeah, because I remember I had teamed with you in season 2, and I remember you had a lot of schoolwork back then. That was maybe, I don't know exactly, maybe it was like your sophomore year or something, but then I had played with him again on season 4, and at that time it was so funny. I don't know how well you remember it, but I remember it pretty vividly. Like, they were doing pretty well, and then they played a tournament, and I think you guys were expected to like maybe make this, like, I think you had a chance to make finals or something, and you guys like got 3-0'd, and I think Payne had wanted to kick Scream, and I remember contacting Scream and Benji because I was friends with him and Benji. I had known them, and I had like kind of asked, I was just surprised, so I was like genuinely just asking Benji like what was going on, blah blah, and Benji just kind of complained about Payne a little bit and was like, yeah, Payne just ints every game, I don't really know like whose fault it is, blah blah. And I had said something to Sprek, and then I remember Benji went to Alex and was like, yeah, why don't we just like kick Payne and pick up Mike, keep Scream or whatever. And it was so funny because on that team, I remember you were stressed because you were either just about to graduate or you had graduated or something.
I was going to, yeah. So I think summer, and we hadn't yet hit summer, but yeah, I was.
Yeah. And this was like maybe early on in the summer or late spring or something that I had joined the team. And I remember you were pretty like, I had joined and you were like, yeah, I'm willing to give it a shot, but Scream's been like really hard to work with, all this type of stuff, like blah, blah. And it was literally like 2 weeks into the team or 3 weeks into the team, Scream just refused to pick any character that we like wanted to ask him to like try or anything like that. Like we could not get him to budge. I remember at the time he was building, it was like old Runic Shield and Witchblade, and they both had the same aura and they did not stack. And we showed him over and over again. We're like, dude, it does not stack. He's like, yeah, no, I'm pretty sure you guys are wrong. It is stacking though. And we like showed him. And we're like, dude, it doesn't stack. He's like, I don't know. It feels pretty OP. And like, he just would double down so hard. And then he picked Arachne in a game against like, we were doing pretty well. It was like one of the lower seeded teams. We ended up losing to them. And I remember after that, he had messaged me and he was like, I've had enough. We got to kick him. He's got to go. I can't do it anymore. He's like, my mental, I can't do it. And I had convinced him to keep Scream. We ended up not making that tournament. I think it was
Spain?
It was Spain, yeah.
It was you. You're one of the people that denied us.
You were
was that
it was the Noble Wowie team.
Defense?
Yeah.
Yes, it was the Noble Wowie team.
Oh wait,
We were one game.
Yes, that was okay. That was us, and I remember that so vividly. I was so pissed because Wowie was the only one alive, and I was Ares, and I had alt. Okay, and he was Naja, and that was back when you could beads Naja on the way up to the air. You remember that? So he and Panda kept getting alted, and they were beads midair, come down, bam, just dead instantly. And so we would siege. We were stomping them in like the first 20 minutes, and it took us like 4 fires, and finally. We broke the base. We won a fight. My carries, they beads to Naja. I remember me screaming Salt. We were like, guys, if you beads once, we win the game on the spot. And like, they just couldn't do it. And Skeele kept getting a pick every single siege. And then finally, I was like, it was Wowie versus like 4 or 5 of us. I'm like, he has no beads. I have ult in 5 seconds. We're just going to wait. I'm going to blink ult him. And you were freaking Kukulkan.
Yep.
Okay, and he puts his Kukulkan tornado on, like, if this is like, okay, if like this is the Titan, okay, and here's me, he puts his tornado so it's all the way over here on the Titan, and I pull Wowie right here. He misses the damn tornado on Wowie, misses his one on Wowie, and then Panda is missing autos on the Titan and doesn't hit Wowie, and then Wowie kills everybody. And that one game we would have made Sweden. But instead we didn't, and then he abandoned us. He took a programming job. He took a programming job, and it ended up working out really well for us. I don't think he was the problem on that team at all. We just like kind of trolled a couple ends. But yeah, I remember that was such like a wild few weeks.
I just realized something. We denied you, and then you denied my team from going to Spain. When you were on
the AI team, right? Like the
Leons and them. Yeah, I remember game 1 we won, then game 2 you guys just picked like the most random stuff. It was like Ares Hunbots.
Yes.
And we lost, and I was so pissed. I'm like, if we won that, we were going to Spain. And I just go, screw it, we're banning that. Ban Ares here. It was like they weren't even close to being meta at the time. And we ended up winning, but I was so angry about that.
Oh man.
Oh my god.
Oh, the one game I wanted to talk about, I feel like you don't see it often ever, is like your one Janus game where you were like 9-0.
Oh, against Sor.
Were you 9-0? What was? Do you remember your record that game?
Something like, it might have been.
I think it was 13 or
something
yeah.
like that. Yeah.
And he was every
11-0.
single kill on his team. Every single kill.
Yeah,
I remember
there was 11 kills in the SPL game for. It was you guys were enemy, or what was it, United then, or
we
what?
we enemy. We hadn't yet become united. I think this was like the first split of
spring season 3, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but I don't know. Did someone ever? Did Betty Smite ever make like a video on that?
I'm not sure actually.
Yeah.
You guys
Shout
were
outs to
Sor,
Betty
I think,
Smite,
right?
Yeah, it was Sor.
Yeah, they were against, because Sor was third that split, and they were first. So they were like, Sor was a really good team.
So funny too, because I remember when we were sieging Phoenix, Jigs whispers me, and he's like, "Dude, you have every single kill on the team. Like, what is going on?"
Yeah.
I don't think has that ever happened in another.
I don't
SPL
think
game?
so.
I
Not
think
that I
you're like the
remember.
only one. Like that's
Not on a winning team at least. Like to be on the winning team and get all the kills.
I remember at some point really trying to keep the record going. Like Panda was like trying to get to kill, and I would just like come in and like
just
sweep
last
it
hit
up.
it. That's awesome.
That's awesome. But yeah. So you guys played. You played all the way till season 5, right? And then you played season 4 summer.
Yeah.
And then you guys, you started the programming since season 4, and then what did you do until?
Pretty much. So I wasn't graduating like him. I was still having classes, but the way I scheduled my classes was not the smartest move, where I kind of scheduled them all early. Like I was taking my senior classes as a junior in terms of my math and my programming. So it was just like spending a ton of time on that. So I wrapped that up, and then I pretty much graduated a year later and ended up here almost immediately.
That's awesome.
Do you guys have like a particular thing? So I think I had asked you right before the show, you had said Alex is lead gameplay programmer, is that right? And then you're mostly working on, was it map?
Engine. So
Engine,
it's mostly
okay,
just
sorry.
tool stuff.
Yeah. Do you guys have like a particular, I don't know, it's such a different language, like I don't think either of us know what's going on with that. Do you guys have a particular like maybe favorite thing that you've worked on in the game, where maybe like you just like you play the game and like as a fan you're like, oh, this is how that works, or you got to do something that you really had liked?
I think I can definitely speak to that. So Cleodna Passive was very ambitious, right? Like going into that, that was, you have to put somebody inside world geometry, which our game notoriously, like all games tend to like not want you to get in world geometry. In fact, if you've ever seen the bug where somebody would like basically just like fly up into the sky, that was because they were stuck in world geo, and it kept trying to like nudge them out, but it wasn't succeeding, so it would just keep nudging you like up into the air. So we had to like basically have you go inside world geo, but then also find a way to black out your entire screen, render the walls that surround all of the world geo, actually have all of the characters render on top of that black screen, and all of their particle systems, and all of their materials, all of, anything that like makes you see them, and then also apply like a ghostly material to them. And then we also had to make it so that the physics of you actually being able to walk around inside of the wall would work properly. And even something as simple as like, when you walk against the wall, you like slide across it.
Yeah.
You don't just like stop, right? There's no like friction there. That wouldn't work inside of a wall. If you like went up against, if you're in geo and you try to like walk up against geo, it would just stop you. And so we also had to like program like the physics to actually get you to like slide against that and to also leave. But yeah, no, that was particularly just, I think in order to get the like outlines to work, my boss ended up like creating a system that basically like sampled the map. So it's like, imagine just drawing like a bunch of dots across the map and then creating lines between those dots, and wherever a line hits like a wall, that would be an intersection. And you would generate all of these like points around every single world geo. And from there, if you just kind of put like these little models or meshes between each point, you can basically create the wall. We call it a spline, but you can basically like create the wall that like outlines that. So we had to go from the map tracker, which was all those dots, to the wall generation. And then we had to write the systems to basically have all of those like FXs and everything like rendered in this specific format so that it would appear on your screen, and then make sure that whenever you leave, everything got returned back to normal. So
you guys got all that, right?
Yeah.
That's you guys like shaking your head. I'm like, oh, they're definitely following along. They know exactly what's going on.
That's so cool to think like that's just one character's passive, and I'm sure like
passive.
Oh yeah,
yeah, I'm sure it was one of the harder ones, but like I was thinking like midway through that, like I don't actually remember there being any like crazy like game breaking bugs or anything with Cleo passive. Like I feel like day one when I played that character, it was so smooth to play, and I thought it looked so cool like when you were in the wall and you got to see everybody. So I feel like, I don't know, everybody likes to meme the game for bugs and stuff, which like bugs just happen in every game always, but it's just so crazy to think about like how much work goes into just the passive for that character. Or like
for sure.
I remember talking to Aggro or Ryan or whatever, and I remember he had mentioned that you guys gave him a lot of crap for Maui because it was like yeah, it was, I remember he said it was like super ambitious, and he would like go back and forth and always try to like change everything and do a bunch of stuff, and like just the amount of work that I've heard on the back end of things that I probably never would have thought of is so cool.
Maui was probably 50% more effort than any other character we had released before. Even if it might not appear that way, there's just so many different intricacies to like how all of his different abilities work, how they interact with the characters, even just getting the swing to work, especially in net games. Like there's a lot of problems with doing stuff like that, so that took a lot of work. Just a ton of different things to get him to go. I mean, he's a very interesting character, and so I'm glad like we put in all that work. But yeah, no, it was definitely he was definitely a lot.
I know he had said for Ishal, he's like, yeah, I'm gonna make the most simple character ever to like pay them back for that one.
But what's funny, simple characters are fun too. Like Ishal is a ton of fun. Like it's just it's a much simpler gameplay loop, but like it's really polished. It feels great to use. Right?
She feels so smooth.
Yeah, exactly.
I love her.
Yeah,
I think like Ishtar is like the poster child of that. Like that character to me is super simple, but just being able to do like the small things like pulling your ult back when you're threeing someone, like it just like having the time to do that type of polish makes the character feel 10 times better than a super complicated
even
one.
Small stuff like where you can change if her 2 is like going out or coming in. I like that type of stuff, or like Wukong or Long 3, that type of stuff.
I know two things I tried very hard on Ishtar to optimize, especially for like pro level play and stuff, was specifically the ult recall. So as you're shooting at the ult, you can press 4 right while it's casting out, and it will queue up the recall to go back. Like we specifically put that in to make sure that mechanic would work because it just felt smoother. And then her AO1, the way it alternates between all the different abilities, we did a lot more optimizations to simulate that like client side, so it feels really responsive. In fact, something like holding left click and pressing 1, it will like seamlessly blend into the next auto attack. So I don't know how much you guys have like messed with Ishtar.
I noticed it being really smooth when you cancel her one, like you get like the double auto feel.
That's really cool. And then the other thing with that is the dash.
I was gonna mention
because
oh my god,
it's happened in SPL like 5 times.
So many times.
Where someone tries to Ishtar 1-3 and they just dash in instead.
Zatman did it against us, and I remember Panda, like we were all laughing. We were like, "What is he doing?" And then Panda was like, "Yeah, I don't know how like that even happens to people." And literally the next set, Panda plays Ishtar, zoom into the Phoenix, and just eats it and dies. So good.
It's so funny.
Yeah, how about you, Skeele? Is there anything like that on your end of things?
So I didn't do anything like when I was on gameplay for a little. I didn't do anything like as big as that, but more on like the engine side of things. I would say like the thing I'm most proud of worked on was there was a bug with consoles, mostly I think it was PlayStation, where if you would like try to start a game or join a party, you would actually like your console would freeze.
Oh, wow.
And just like I had to do some weird stuff to like figure out what was going on, actually being able to see like, oh, our crash rates on like PlayStation dropped by like 50% or something, right? And it was just like seeing that, I'm like, that actually was like cool. It's like, oh, this made an impact.
Yeah, that's so cool because isn't it also, I don't know if you're even allowed to say, but isn't it a little bit harder to work with like the console like infrastructure than it is a little bit? Yeah.
So the main reason for that is like, you can kind of think this way. It's like on PC, you have access to everything. You can see whatever just because that's just how the environment is. It's a lot more open. Consoles are so like kind of a black box where you can only work on the tools you're given.
Yeah.
So a lot of the time you won't have like essentially the source code to their stuff, which is you can kind of think of as like you don't have an understanding of how it works. You're just told, hey, this works.
Yeah.
And because of that, you have to start making assumptions. I'm like, oh, I think it could work this way. Or
Basically, have to troubleshoot everything.
Yeah, and you're just like, where am I giving them the bad information, but you don't know how it's bad information?
That's actually like super maybe frustrating puzzle solving to some extent, but yeah, that's really cool. I feel like Smite's transition to console as well. Like I remember back when I was an idiot kid, I was like PC Master Race, like all that stupid stuff, but like I feel like it's been so good for Smite to have like all these different
many players.
So many players, all these different platforms. Everyone gets to like play with each other. It like I think crossplay ranked this year has been so good.
I think
well.
I've been pushing for that for so long. I'm so happy it was coming.
Yeah, it was so hard because it was just like a PR battle with the community, and then I kind of noticed it like over the years. Like I think it was mostly a lot of the older players that were against it. And yeah, I'm so happy it's in now.
It just makes a better ring scene. Like
it does, yeah.
Like no matter how you view it, the higher amount of population you have for that game,
course.
like the better your games are going to be. If your goal is to just win, then you shouldn't be playing ranked. Let me rephrase that. If your goal is just to stomp people, you shouldn't be playing ranked. If your goal is to improve and get better, you should be playing ranked.
People in Twitch chat will always be like, "Oh yeah, but what if I have like this Xbox player who like doesn't know how to build?" And it's like, if you don't know how to build. If you lost your rank game, you would blame it on anyone, regardless of the platform they're playing. Like the reality is, like if you're in gold or plat, like it's like even masters, it doesn't matter. Like it just doesn't matter.
Who cares?
Yeah, I don't know. It's like, that's the one thing I always find funny is people are like, "Oh, it's my team and it's my team," and it's like you literally have the same like matchmaking rating as them. Like that's how good you are. Just you might be better in some aspects, you might be worse in some aspects, but like overall, that's your skill level.
Look inward, as they say.
Unless you're me. Then
of course, yeah. I mean, for me, I just get unlucky, but yeah. You got anything else, Max?
That's it. Thanks for coming on, guys. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate your guys' time, especially midweek, mid-work day, all of that.
Do you guys have anything you want to shout out as well, really quick, before we leave? Like, are you working on anything, or like, do you any streaming or Twitter or anything like that?
I guess big shout outs to the gameplay team. They're working really hard, especially on 10R6 upcoming. That was a ton of work on all of us, and we definitely are really excited to see players actually get their hands on it. But huge shout out to them, and it's just huge shout outs to the entire team in general. Everybody's working really hard.
I mean, you pretty much said it. Team's been amazing.
Notes are tomorrow, right? For 10.6 patch notes. So. Yeah, I mean that's
looking forward to it.
I'm so excited. As Max had said earlier, a little bit of a spoiler for next week. We'll have Clumsy on and 10.6. I'm so excited for it, and we'll probably have a longer episode next week. Get to really pick Clumsy's brain on everything. But yeah, I think it's going to be so fun. I can't wait.
Cool.
Yeah. But yeah.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. You can see us next week on twitch.tv/OrderTheChunk, same time, 3:30 p.m. Eastern. My YouTube channel at youtube.com/@PBMSmite, and then on Spotify Inside the SPL. But yep, bye. See everybody next week.
Bye.
One if I'm trolling from Professor B.